midday meeting of the Rotary Club of Rochester. I am Audrey Betcher, the president of your club. We are so happy to see everybody here today. We're going to take a minute and wave to each other for the Zoom folks and the people in the room. So good to see you guys. We're glad we can be together in all ways. To get things started, Terry Sorensen will lead us in the four-way test.
All right, everybody join me in repeating the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Sarah Gilliland will provide a reflection.
Sarah, could you hold the microphone super close to your mouth when you're talking?
How's that?
And you have to be close to this one too.
Okay, how's this? This is
Better.
a little weird. Now I got to get my paper adjusted so I can see it. Well, as we look forward to Memorial Day weekend, I want to take a moment to recognize the history of Memorial Day and reflect just a bit on its significance. Memorial Day honors those who have lost their lives while defending our country. It's observed on the last Monday of May as the weather is turning warmer and school is winding down. It's also kind of become the unofficial start of summer. According to the website of the U.S. Embassy, it was during the Civil War days that citizens first began to place flowers on the graves of the war dead. In 1865, Waterloo, New York, held the first formal observation of a day dedicated to honoring the war dead. In 1868, a former Civil War general and founder of an organization for war veterans extended the idea by suggesting May 30th as an annual date to remember the 550,000 people who died during the Civil War. Called Decoration Day, it is believed that the May 30th date was chosen because flowers would be in bloom all over the country. And I can remember my parents always referring to it as Decoration Day. By the turn of the century, nearly every state had declared Decoration Day an official holiday. After World War I, Decoration Day was expanded to honor those killed in all the nation's wars. And after World War II, it became known as Memorial Day. It wasn't until 1971 that Congress established Memorial Day as a federal holiday and fixed its observance on the last Monday in May. So as you begin to think about your holiday weekend plans, please also think about the men and women who lost their lives and the families they left behind. Celebrate those lives and honor the sacrifices they made. I think it truly, those service people exemplify service above self, our Rotary motto. Their service makes it possible for us to enjoy the freedoms and the opportunities we have. So enjoy your time with family and friends and make the most of the more like summer-like weather, but also listen to the stories of a veteran, visit a cemetery, and remember the reason we're celebrating.
Thank you, Sarah. Chris Colby will introduce our visitors and guests. Yeah.
All right, hopefully everybody can hear me on both sides here. Welcome everybody. I'm glad to see we have a good turnout. Must be nobody has anything to do on a beautiful day like this but to come and sit inside. So welcome. We have really a couple of guests today. We have Mariana Gonzalez. Mariana, you want to stand up? Just wave at everybody. Yeah, welcome. She's checking this out. I guess she's a,
She's our intern, our research.
or,
intern.
okay, and
Yeah,
maybe you want to talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
I can just, Mariana, it just arrived on Tuesday and she is our research intern that we're going to be hosting for a year. So just like Edgar, who came last October, Mariana, it will be with us for a year. So she's with me this week. And then she's going to move in with Donna Greason, who's off celebrating graduations for her daughter. So we welcome you, Mariana.
Yes. Welcome, Mariana. We also have a special guest today, Paul Appenhorst is a new member as of today. Paul, you want to stand up and wave to everybody? Welcome to Rotary. And of course, as you probably noticed, we have another special guest that's a little furrier than Paul is. And that not much. And that's Sadie, who is our special guest with her handler Kit, and they're going to be our program later on today. So welcome. And she's very well behaved, so. She's making noises like we better get out for a while. So I think that's it for the guests. So welcome everybody. And oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, Michaela, I think this is you've been here a couple of times. Welcome. And I don't know, is there anyone on screen? Nope. Okay, so we're okay. Any other guests that didn't sign in here, so we know about them. Otherwise, welcome everybody, and thanks for coming, and welcome to our guests.
Thank you, Chris. Birthdays and anniversaries in the last half of May. Kelly Engler, May 20th. Carla Nelson, May 22nd. Doug Porter, May 23rd. Dana Funk, May 28th. We have the birthday table over there. Anniversaries, Marilyn Delling, 3 years. Frank Allen, 5 years. Samantha Whipple, 8 years. And Jim Seward, 13 years. Please celebrate these birthdays and anniversaries. Jan Hagedorn will provide a member spotlight.
All right. I wrote this out and then timed it, and you're going to get the abbreviated version because I'm long-winded, it's just by nature. But I thought it would be interesting for you to know a little bit about my background. I grew up in a farm in St. Charles, and we were not the typical farm family. So I essentially had 3 parents. My uncle lived with us. He was a bachelor. He was completely devoted to us. So even though I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, we all had a lot of very individualized attention. And education was considered an essential element in our lives. All of my parents' brothers and sisters, who also came from farm families, went to college, which was very unusual in the early 1900s. But our farm was also a little odd. We were considered the social service group of the community before there was an in-place social service network. So every person that drove to a gas station looking for a job was sent to our farm. And my parents and uncle had a philosophy that every person deserved a job, and even if they could only work for us for a day, they would hire them for the day. And they tended to have carloads of children and a wife in the car, and they were all hungry, and the kids would play in our front yard, and my mom would serve the wife coffee, and the husband would work for a day. We'd all have lunch, and they'd send them with a bag of groceries at the end of the day. That was just how we operated. Now, my uncle was also very sick. And so he was a Mayo Clinic regular. And he was also very social. So we were the host of, in the early 60s, the Filipino nurses came when they were short-staffed. They would come every Sunday to our farm for picnics because he'd gotten to know them as they were his caretakers. And my brothers and sisters and I would take bets on how many people would be in the car. And I think the most we ever saw was 11. They'd come 2 or 3 carfuls, but we would empty out Marion Hall and they would be in our yard. And we also ran ads in the visitor magazine that anybody that wanted to see a working farm between their appointments was welcome to come. And so we had people from all over the world that would show up, and they too would stay for lunch. So my families had unwed mothers, kids with 1 foot in jail, farm workers that had no place to go. They all came to our house, and we welcomed them. We didn't necessarily like them. Well, I mean, there's a difference. Like 1 year for Christmas, my parents gave us false teeth for one of the guys that worked for us because he was such a slob when he ate. and they gave him false teeth and considered it our gift, and we were all happy. So I mean, that's sort of how that worked. Anyway, so that was my foundation. And when I was when I graduated from high school, I went to college, didn't like it, didn't know what I wanted, quit college, much to my parents' horror. It had never happened before. And I was lucky enough to land at Rochester Methodist Hospital in the pharmacy as a pharmacy technician. And the professional people there mentored me, I think, much like the Strive people mentor people. They kind of put me back together, gave me a sense of direction, and my managers called me in one day and said, well, now you can do everything that we need you to do here. You don't want to do this the rest of your life, do you? I think you need to go back to school. And I went just because I trusted this woman. And it worked very nicely. So I went to the university and studied nutrition and dietetics and became a registered dietitian. While I was there, I met this charming geek in organic chemistry, and he was doing his pre-med science requirements, and we fell in love. And when I was doing my internship and had my first job in St. Cloud, we tore up the pavement for a while as he did medical school here in Rochester. And eventually I got a job here at Methodist again, this time to start what was the former diet kitchen. So I started a teach and eat cafeteria at Methodist Hospital for Mayo Clinic patients. They had been very popular in the 30s through the 50s, and then it got closed down. But it was fun to do something from scratch. Once that was successful, I moved to the back of the house and managed the patient food service, which was a lot more administrative responsibilities, a lot more employees. I got my master's in hospital administration while I was doing that, and while Steve was finishing his residency. He eventually graduated and we moved to Portland, Oregon. Actually, it was Vancouver, Washington, but it's right across the road or the river. And then I had probably the most exciting job I've ever had. I worked for Kaiser Permanente in their healthcare behavioral research center, where everyone that worked there was burned out administrators from their system. I've never seen anything like it. It was just brilliant. And since I'd been in administration, they allowed me to work there. But our job was to fulfill the requirements for NIH studies, which is how they funded all of this. And my job was to design and develop education materials that was more effective for families about nutrition in their system. And so they said, you think you can do it better? I said, yep, I don't like the way we do dietetics. And they said, great, show us how you think it should be done. And they studied what I came up with, and we tweaked it until we could say, yep, this is better. And then they send it out into the system. It was so exciting to work with people that were that dynamic. Then Mail called my husband back to come and work for them, which was a big honor for him. I was horrified. I was giving him, it's like, I kept telling him, I don't want to be a Mail wife. I know what people think of them. You know, I grew up in that neighborhood. And here I am, 30 years later. but but it's true. I mean, it's not a considered a, if you're not one of them, it's not a great job, you know? Anyway, so when I came back, Mail was no longer hiring people. They were in their right sizing. That was the term they were using at the time. But so I stayed home and was going to raise my kids. It turned out my oldest son, who was very, very, very bright, very, very verbal, and had all the opportunities that you would hope kids getting ready for school have. He had just a terrible time in kindergarten and first grade. He wasn't able to read. He couldn't read a word at the end of first grade. He qualified as being dyslexic. He was tested through the school. Luckily, his teacher sent us to the reading center, which was a place I'd never heard of. And he was tutored for 5 years. And by middle school, he was doing okay. And by the end of high school, he was an AP National Merit Scholar and has launched to seek his fortune. But I thought, somebody saved my kid, I should probably save somebody else's. And so I did some volunteer work in the public schools before they had title teachers in every building. I worked at Fowell Elementary, which was our local elementary school, for 4 or 5 years. The school trained 4 of us, and we went in and helped struggling first graders. But we didn't help everybody. And because I knew about the Reading Center, I and one of the other people that was in this training program took the training at the Reading Center. And while we were taking it, it was like, oh, that's what Rachel needed. Oh, that's what we should have done with. We could put names on what we were, of the kids that were struggling that we hadn't helped in our typical training. And so they trusted me enough that they let me start a pilot program in their kindergarten. And I took small groups of kindergartners, 15 minutes a day, that were in the lowest risk category for reading problems. And by mid-year, they weren't the lowest anymore. We had to reshuffle because the kids in my 15-minute group were above the ones that were left in the classroom that weren't struggling. But by the end of the year, we had every kid in those kindergarten classes at grade level ready to go on to first grade. So we did that for 2 years. It was very exciting. And it turns out, then they got funded for a reading teacher, so they didn't need the volunteer anymore. And the reading teacher didn't know how to do what we'd learned at the Reading Center. So that whole program just collapsed. But Jean Osmond at the Reading Center remembered me from when I took the training, and I went back and took what I had learned in the classrooms into the Reading Center, and we started an early childhood program. which is what I did for the last 15 years. And I loved it. I just retired, but my heart is there. And I have spent the last 20 years advocating for better teacher training through the universities, with the legislature, and doing parent awareness for dyslexia. And I think that's my identity now. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I have also gone through that training, and I tutor this afternoon, and anybody who wants to really make a difference in somebody's life, talk to us. That training is absolutely life-changing for so many kids who are struggling. So fellow Rotarians, it is my privilege to welcome a new member into our club. Paul Apenhorst is sponsored by Mark Drips, and I'll have you two come forward. And Mark, I will have you do the introductions.
Thank you very much, President Audrey. Rotarians, I'd like to introduce to you Paul Apenhorst. This Amish-looking guy over here wasn't like this a few years ago. I always tease him about his beard, but anyways, Paul is a Southern boy. What I mean by Southern, born and raised in Adams, Minnesota, and attended Southland High School. After high school, he attended and graduated from the Dakota Wesleyan University in Mitchell, South Dakota, with a Bachelor in Business Administration. Some of you may recognize Paul from his days at Macy's in the men's department. If anybody needed a suit, this was the guy to go to. But most recently, Paul has gotten into the insurance field. He currently is working for Krause and Anderson as a producer, excuse me. And Paul has been tasked to help Krause and Anderson open up a Rochester branch. What's a producer, you ask? Some of you may know in the insurance field, but get to know Paul and he'll tell you all about it. You could call Paul a handyman. He can swing a hammer, paint, lay flooring, plumb a shower, and many other fields related to construction as he has helped his family in other building and in the home building remodeling area for years. Matter of fact, Paul and his family and a few friends flipped a house in Leroy where he now calls home. Paul's passions are his family, winemaking, outdoor activities like hunting and fishing and kayaking, and gardening. He usually grows extra vegetables and donates to Channel 1. At least it's he's done the last few years. Okay. Paul resides in Leroy with his wife Andrea and daughters Scarlett and Melody, and two small, highly energetic Jack Russell Terriers. Now, you may wonder how I met Paul. His wife Andrea is daughter number 3, which makes Paul son-in-law number 3. So I'll be able to keep an eye on him a little bit more here on Thursdays. Paul has heard me talk about Rotary over the years and is ready to make a commitment to being a part of an organization to making the world a better place. Please welcome Paul.
Okay. So, sorry. Paul, you have been invited into Rotary because you are an outstanding person in the community and in your chosen walk of life. Thus, we welcome you into membership in the Rotary Club of Rochester and in the Fellowship of Rotary International throughout the world. The responsibilities of membership have already been explained to you, and your fellow Rotarians expect you to honor the principles for which Rotary stands. The motto of Rotary is service above self, and we commit it to the personal care of each Rotarian so that it may be respected and allowed to grow among those with whom we come into contact. As a token of your commitment to this ideal, let me present you with a Rotary lapel pin, which we ask you to wear. We extend to you a warm welcome, and with it, the friendship of us all. So we'll have you go to the door right at the end so everybody can shake their hands. So you can go ahead and go back. Thank you so much. Welcome. Our club has a collection of Rotary stamps that was started in 1975. We're looking for any current club members or local friends of club members who have an interest in stamp collecting. We'd value your expertise as the club decides what to do with the collection. If you're interested, please contact Sarah. We had our May board meeting yesterday, and at the meeting, we approved action plans for 2022, 2023. There are copies on your table, and it will be published in the next Moccasin Flower. The board is now working on the budget to make sure we can accomplish the tasks outlined in the plan. Next week, we'll be back here at the Even Hotel for a committee day. For those not attending committee meetings, please attend and socialize with other Rotarians. Are there any other announcements anyone has before we introduce our speaker? Okay, Vicki.
I'd like to welcome, get this up closer, I'd like to welcome Kit Muellner, Michelle Lee, who's back there taking pictures, who keeps everything running at the Hope Ranch, and Sadie, the Wonder Dog. Kit is the founder and CEO of Hope Ranch. She's a business professional and a psychotherapist. She's a board certified, licensed, independent clinical social worker, and an EGALA certified as both a psychotherapist and horse specialist, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that. Her broad experience as a social work trained psychotherapist with her BSSW and emphasis on business and Spanish, along with program development and management experience in a variety of settings, give her unique insight and understanding of systems throughout corporate, private, and government settings. Kit received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Luther College in Decorah and her MSSW in clinical social work with children, youth, and families from UW-Madison. Kit started Hope Ranch in 1999, allowing her the opportunity to provide a variety of services. Along with her 3 cats, 5 horses, and therapy dog Sadie, Kit's goal is to make people feel at home on the ranch and to create and hold space for people to experience the wonderful growth and healing that interacting and learning with animals and other types of experiential learning offers. Please welcome Kit and Sadie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm short too. Is this picking up? Okay. Okay. So can everybody can hear okay? Okay, perfect. All right. I'm not used to being tethered, so bear with me. And I may ask Vicki maybe to take Sadie for a little while till she comes in. Here's something to help keep me happy. She's now Sadie's best friend in the world. All right. Well, thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. I want to let you know, Vicki, we hired her, 2 years ago now. And she's been doing an absolutely fabulous job for the Hope Ranch Foundation with fundraising and grant writing and all of those things that she's so good at. And so we really appreciate her. And Kathy Lassard is the treasurer of our foundation board. And so Kathy and I were neighbors many years ago out on Salem Road. Yeah, back in 1999. And then we both have moved to other places. So it's wonderful to see both of you here, and thanks for being here to support the foundation. So animals as partners in psychotherapy, healing, and growth. And just go on through what, how, why, and does it really work? That's kind of what I'm here to talk about, along with the Hope Ranch Foundation. So I've been fully introduced. No, if you can go back. One more, there we go. You met Sadie, you met me. I wanted to talk just for a minute, if you go through ahead one slide. Is anybody uncomfortable with dogs? I haven't checked in with everybody. Okay, all right. So a little bit later, we'll do an experiential activity, and I'll need like anywhere from 4 to 6 people. So be thinking about if you'd be willing to come up and play a little game with Sadie. All right. As far as your general comfort goes, please feel free to get up, walk around, do whatever you need to do. Next. So the foundation was established in July of 2017. And the main reason it is because this wonderful work we do is not fully covered by insurance. In fact, mental health services in general are not fully covered by insurance. And the work we do is more expensive than traditional in-office therapy to provide. And it quickly became apparent that we were going to need to do something to be able to continue the work realistically. So we established the foundation to help with that, and also to help just get the word out, connections like Vicki and Kathy being part of this organization, being able to get out and speak at different organizations. So next slide, please. And I'm going to just have you rotate through this group of, yep. Thank you. One more. All right. Just really briefly, I always throw this slide in because I often get the question, what about allergies? And some statistics that I found is there's no record of an animal ever causing a fatal allergic reaction, although people do get really sick sometimes. I have friends and family who do. Cat allergies are twice as common as dog allergies. I couldn't find statistics about horse allergies, but I know several people who are very allergic to horses. So it definitely is out there. This one? Okay. All right. So EGALA. Vicki mentioned EGALA earlier. It stands for the Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association, and it too has been around since 1999. And it gives us a codified approach. It gives us ethics. It gives us guidelines for how to do the work we do. We are also overseen by, I'm a licensed independent clinical social work. So the state of Minnesota's Board of Social Work, I am also required to meet all of their standards and ethics. So that's kind of the oversight piece that people are always interested in. Over the past 17 years, our clients, well, it's more than that now, sorry, I didn't update that one, 22 years, our clients have reported they've been able to change and grow more effectively and quickly than through traditional approaches. It is not uncommon for our clients to have tried 4 or 5 other therapists and therapies before they come to us and just not found it particularly helpful. Now, that's not to say all those other approaches don't work for a lot of people, but there's also a high number of people that don't. Okay. Is that better? Okay. All right, next. The EGALA model is really effective because it embraces the philosophy that people learn best by doing. So it's an experiential, hands-on way of doing therapy, as is working with Sadie, the therapy dog, or the cats. However, what makes the EGALA model unique is the horses, because horses are different. Can anybody tell me how horses are different from dogs or cats? Not Kathy Lassard. They're bigger. Mostly, they're bigger. What else? They read your mind. They're super intuitive. All right, Kathy, you can answer. You don't know the answer? All right. So horses are prey animals. Dogs and cats are predator animals. If you're a prey animal, what does that mean about how much you're tuning into the predator animals around you? And what are humans? Right. So the horses are super tuned in to the clients and anybody who's out there. And that's part of what makes them so effective as our partners in therapy. So they instinctively analyze and react to our body language and all our nonverbal cues. And that helps us get insight into our own stuff. We do 99% of our work on the ground. It's not at all about horsemanship or horseback riding. It's about what you can learn from the different interactions between the horses themselves and between yourself and the horses as you're doing the work. Next. So EGALA stands alone in the world of EAP because of its strict commitment to standards, ethics, and requirements of certification, not only through EGALA, but in your professional field as well. So an EGALA equine specialist has to be able to document 6,000 hours of work with horses in order to be able to apply to be an EGALA MATA practitioner and then go through the certification program with EGALA. Next. Pet Partners is also an organization I deal with a lot because of the other therapy animals. So I just want to mention them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about them. And who knows about Freud's dog? Did anybody know Freud had a dog that partnered with him in therapy? Yeah, so this goes way back. This is not new stuff. Any idea why or how Freud started bringing his dog into therapy? Because he was nervous himself, which happens. We're human too, us therapists, and sometimes we can be uncomfortable going into a situation with a new client or a difficult situation. So he started bringing his dog in and discovered that it made a huge impact on how his clients did in therapy. So he started incorporating his dog all the time. There's lots of other research in history. Charles Darwin wrote a book way back in 1872. There was research in Russia in 1959, and then a neurosurgeon in France back in the 1870s and wrote about emotional and psychological benefits of riding or interacting with horses. Next. So EGALA model services are not hippotherapy, where, you know, you guys are probably familiar with ride abilities and some other programs around. That's for people with physical challenges. Ours is specifically about mental health. Sometimes people have concern about the treatment of animals that are partnered with in providing services to people. So we really encourage you to be mindful of that if you're interacting with organizations that provide services, and be mindful of how you present the information that you have a therapy animal involved. Next slide. So there is a difference between a service animal and a therapy animal. Ours are therapy animals. They are not service animals. So they are not covered by the ADA laws that say that, you know, you can take a seeing eye dog anywhere, right? The law says that. It's the animal. Well, I always get this wrong. The animals don't have the rights. It's the disabled person with the service animal that has the right to take it. And it's just a really clear definition. Sometimes people have gotten into, oh, I've got my dog certified as a emotional support animal or as a therapy dog. That does not give it the same rights as a seeing eye dog. Next. All right. ESAs, though, are becoming more popular. Who's familiar with that term and how much they're used? Yeah. And many people are becoming much more welcoming, which is awesome to see. All right. We also have a lot more knowledge in terms of neuroscience behind why we do what we do. And so we know about hormones that are released in the body when you get to see an animal or touch an animal or interact with an animal. So there's all sorts of physiology behind why the animal-assisted therapy works. Thank you. We have two brain circuits, threat and reward. Which do you suppose is triggered in positive interactions with animals? And then we get oxytocin released in our body and our brain, and we feel good. All right. I have tons of research. I have a huge bibliography if anybody really wants a deeper dive. Okay. All sorts of evidence has been gathered over the years. All sorts of research has been done. We know there are general benefits to health, reduced blood pressure among them. Huge decrease in use of pain medications, increase in a sense of belonging, acceptance, assertiveness, improved parenting skills, all sorts of things are seen in folks with PTSD. Reduced aggression in children, reduced anxiety and depression, ASD and other developmental disorders benefit greatly. And that's really awesome because those are some of the things that are difficult to do talk therapy with. But the experiential and animal assisted therapy has huge benefits for folks on the spectrum. Speech and language disorders, ADHD, childhood behavioral issues, all of those have shown great improvement with animal assisted therapy interventions. Next. So it's not for everybody, and we fully acknowledge that. And people can come to the ranch and not do animal assisted therapy if they want to, but the majority of our people do animal assisted therapy. Thank you. So what makes it psychotherapy is that you have a treatment plan. You're not just hanging out with the dog or the horse or the cat. You're not just grooming the horse. If you're using the brushes, it's probably an exercise in how do you build relationship and build trust with somebody. It's not about brushing the horse. Next. Mentioned treatment plan and goals. There's a beginning, middle, and end to each session and to treatment. Some people would like to come see us forever because they love the animals so much, but they don't. If you don't need the animal, it's just talk therapy with a four-legged in the office. So some quick images. Horses like to play. Stop on that one for a second. So, yep. Body language. Which horse is the most dominant horse in that picture, do you think? The one in the back? The yellow one? Of the two in front? Why, Kathy? She's absolutely right. And what do you notice in the body language that says defense? What do you see in the body language that says defense of the one on the right? Yep. So Kathy's absolutely right. 90% of the time people tell me but if you're naughty, I'll kill you. Yeah. Yep. So even though the horse on the right is about 500 pounds bigger than the horse on the left, and now the horse on the left is actually 33 years old, that horse on the left is still our herd boss. And the reason I show you this slide is because part of what makes this so effective is people watch the interactions of the horses within their herd, and it becomes metaphor for their own lives and their own relationships. And so instead of me or another therapist saying, I think this is what's going on or what's going on within you, I can reflect it back on what I'm seeing in the horses. I spend more time as a therapist watching my animals' interactions with my clients than I do my clients, because the animals tell us what's really going on. Oh, yes. Kathy said that the horse on the left is the dominant one. And she can tell that because the horse on the left looks very calm and relaxed and his head is kind of down. And the horse on the right is standing very stiff-legged and very square, and its neck is super arched and rounded out. And that's a submissive thing with horses. And that horse on the right is saying, I want to be the boss and I know I'm not. Yes. Next slide. One more. And sometimes doing is best of all. So have you decided if you're willing to volunteer? I need 4 to 8 volunteers. Come on up. oops. Come on up and divide yourself into 2 groups. Michelle, could you hang out by the door and make sure Sadie doesn't go out if somebody comes or goes? All right. So is everybody okay with me letting Sadie off leash for a few minutes? Okay. So, yep. Please do not give her people food. A number 1 rule about therapy and service dogs, don't feed them people food. Okay. So have you divided into your teams? Do we have 2 equal teams? Okay, that's fine. And they don't have to be equal teams. So she's not a horse, she's a dog, so she's going to respond like a dog, not a horse. So you have 2 minutes to create some sort of obstacle course, and all you need to do is grab a couple of things and put them wherever you want. And your task, each team, is going to be to move Sadie through your obstacle course. Go. You have 2 minutes to create it. Seconds left. All right. So now your task, and you cannot bribe with food. Your task is to move the dog through the obstacle course without grabbing onto anything on the dog. Sadie. So, she didn't want to follow. Oh no, I'm forgetting your name. Amber was feeling very stressed out because she didn't know what goes on, and because she could see that Sadie was getting stressed out. Okay. She didn't want to follow. What else did you notice or feel or experience as you were doing that? Okay. Yep. And was more comfortable with me. Okay. So when do those kinds of things happen for you in your life? Where do those experiences show up? Okay, so that would be an example of a question I would ask. If it was a work group, I'd ask you, does that ever happen at work? Okay. that's just how that's just how quickly all of this, thanks, Vicky. That's just how quickly everything surfaces. Is we just do a little bit. I mean, that was a 30-second thing. Okay, Vicky, now I'm going to, just because you're here and you've got her on the leash, ask her to sit. Ask her. Okay. So now, Mariana, will you take Sadie from Vicky and ask her to sit? First, you got to get her up. Okay. Oh, good job. So lots of times when I ask people to do that, Sadie doesn't listen to them. Why do you think she might not listen to somebody? Stranger? Not asking in an assertive voice, not expecting her to do the behavior. So think about that when I'm working with kids who, or adults, doesn't matter really how old they are, who don't know how to be assertive or who have experienced abuse and have been taught that it's not okay to be assertive. So, and now imagine me asking them to do something, and no, I wouldn't start with that biggest horse with somebody who didn't know horses, but asking them to get a horse to do something. Okay. Yeah. So immediately it's being able to try on the new skills. Thank you very much all for participating. Being able to try on the new skills and practice them in real life with another living being. So it's really hard to tell your therapist, no, I'm not feeling that way when my horse is running away from you. And I'm saying, well, I think maybe you might be feeling kind of angry today. Oh, no, I'm not. Well, really, Scooter doesn't usually run from people like that. So it's fun to laugh about, and it's also incredibly powerful. That's why we do what we do. So any questions? Thoughts, reflections? Chris? How do you feel? The question is, how do I feel about people bringing animals to an office in a casual way? I think it's becoming a lot more common, a lot more often done. And I think that as long as everybody there is okay with it, it's an awesome thing. And there's all sorts of research that shows that staff are happier, more relaxed, less anxious about things, and clients are more comfortable. And that's one of the things our clients say. Number one, by the time they drive there, they've driven through a beautiful river valley. They've probably gotten to watch some wildlife on their way. They drive right up to the building. They don't have to park and go through all of that hassle downtown. And they're always greeted by at least one of the animals at the door. And they're like, it's just a whole different experience. They can get at their stuff and deal with their stuff quicker. It's huge. So where it's appropriate, when it's appropriate, I think it's great. Oh, yes. Yes. So we used to be out on Salem Road Southwest. That's when Kathy and I were neighbors across the road, built a fence together and did other fun things. And now we have relocated. It's technically a Chatfield address, but it's a quarter mile from being a Rochester address. It's southeast of Marion, off of County Road 19 and 139 and then 80th. So Salem Road, as many of you know, has become very, very built up. There's 5 or 6 gravel pits now within 3 miles of the old ranch. It got to where we would have to stop in the middle of sessions and wait for trucks to go by because we couldn't hear. So kind of the last straw for me was when a few of my few different teenage students I had coming out said, I almost got rear-ended by a gravel truck because I was slowing down to turn into the driveway and they weren't paying any attention, or I almost got smeared by a gravel truck as I was leaving. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I'm supposed to be about healing and calm and peace. People are afraid to drive out here. Other questions? Feel free to call us if you ever want to come out and see the ranch. We're happy to do tours. And hopefully now with COVID things, we may do some activities and events out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kit. As a thank you for your presentation, a gift will be given to Journey. As we close out today, I want to give thanks to all who assisted. Joel Hawk, our greeter, Terry Sorensen for leading us in the four-way test, Sarah Gilliland for providing the reflection, Jan Hagedorn for providing a member spotlight, Chris Colby for introducing visitors, Mark Drips for our Sergeant at Arms and for helping at the visitors table, and a big thank you to our speaker, Kit Muellner. Thank you all. Serve to change lives. We are adjourned.